terminology we want to use for this, that they may communicate through actual living people. Because I know that sometimes you'll have a friend or a stranger make a comment, and they know nothing about you, you know nothing about them. They'll make a comment, and if you even like press them on why they made the comment, they oftentimes can't explain it. So it's almost as if maybe the ancestors or whatever, the ghosts or whatever, are giving them a cue to say something to you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's so divinely sent to us too. You know, when we're in that moment, and I'm sure that you found, you know, if you've had those experiences yourself, that it's absolutely what you needed at that time, or it's that missing puzzle piece. And it's one of the most beautiful signs, and one of my favorite signs when I'm able to recognize that, you know, spirit or one of our guides are speaking through another person.
Yeah, because I know that it does seem to happen, and it happens sometimes in the most unusual places. I mean, I'm a mass transit person, so I've even argued that it's happened on the bus and things of that nature where, you know, and like I said, I've never pressed the issue, but I'm sure that if I asked them why they made that comment or why they made that comment to another person, because sometimes you can also observe it happening to somebody else. And I'm sure that if I asked them why they made that comment, they might not even have an actual explanation for why that was actually happening in that particular moment, in that particular time.
Yes, it's absolutely. I love it, and I love when you start to get into the practice of, you know, maybe asking for signs from your, you know, from your guides or from your loved ones. You'll find that happening more frequently to you, and it's really interesting when I see that happening to others as well.
And I was just wondering, I mean, I know definitely with astrology, and sometimes, well, this is going to be somewhat of a controversial question probably, but it seems to me that a lot of times when we are communicating and praying to God or whatever our God spirit is, whether that's, you know, God himself, whether that's Muhammad, whether that's Jesus, and we're going to go the prophet route or whatever, that it seems sometimes that the prayers wind up being twofold, that we wind up praying definitely to the higher power, but we also sometimes in the mix of that prayer also might throw in a word of a question or wanting something from ancestors that have passed on, whether that's parents, if you lost your parents, unfortunately I have both of mine, or grandparents or great aunts or whatever, or even friends that you may, in the mix of prayer, also ask for guidance from people that we are hoping have made it the journey into that next plane in the positive sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what I get with that is I like to separate those prayers. Like when I'm asking for guidance from my loved ones, I like to really start off with having like a separate prayer of gratitude. And when it comes to really asking our loved ones for some guidance or messages, that's something I kind of like to do separate. Does that make sense? So when I say that, it's something I feel like it might. I feel like it's something that would be better off when it's, you know, made separate.
No, and that makes a lot of sense, and I can understand where that would make the more logical sense that you would pray to, you know, regular prayers that most people would do in church or at going to bed and things of that nature, and then pray at a separate time when you're asking for guidance from the ancestors and things of that nature. So, no, that makes a lot of sense in that regard and everything. And I was wondering, do you think that this particular time, because we are in the middle of Valentine's Day, is in 4 days, do you think that this is a time when people are more in tune to trying to communicate with some of their loved ones? Because a lot of times these are loved ones that have passed on. And I know I've even had friends that have, you know, had loved ones that have passed on, and they might even want to get guidance as to what the next step should be in their own social life from their loved ones that have passed on. Because I know that I've had some friends that have, you know, they might have had one of the spouses pass on, and they may want to, you know, even get guidance in the love category from that person. You know, they may be back in the dating world and want to know, is this person acceptable to the past love, to their past mate and everything.
Yes, especially around the holidays and around Valentine's Day. You know, we're more apt to receiving more of a connection from our loved ones because we're thinking about them more frequently. You know, the holidays, especially when you have lost some loved ones, you know, that's a time where we tend to think about them even more. And then there's that instantaneous connection, like I said, with the phone call to heaven, where they're even more connected and even more in tune with us. And, you know, they know that we want those signs in guidance. And, you know, one thing that's really interesting is if you really, you know, just a tip for you guys, you know, especially around Valentine's Day, if you really get in the space and thinking about your loved ones, if you really sit with some pen and paper loved ones, about giving you some insight on guidance. It's very beautiful how sometimes there's just a flow, and you don't even know where it comes from, but it's a flow, and it comes in the form of inspired action where there's this information that feels good. But they do help us with that, and I feel like especially around the holidays where we're more in tune with them, we're absolutely able to really tap into our senses even more.
Yeah, definitely. I can see where that would be the case. I know that I've had this conversation with a couple of friends of mine, and we kind of go back and forth on this. And I'm just wondering your perspective as a medium and a psychic, which is the whole concept of soulmates. Some people think that you are only going to get one soulmate in your life, and you're fortunate if you find that soulmate. And that's what you hope to have. But then I know other people, and I think I might be one of those, that think that you can actually have multiple soulmates that might be there for different purposes. Like they might have a soulmate that is your soulmate that is supposed to be the person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with and maybe even go into eternity with and everything. That kind of like fairy tale kind of love that people are always looking for. But then you have like the soulmate that might be there to inform you or help you in a situation or help you, whether it's a business situation, a personal situation, or a life situation. And even in the matter of love, it seems to be that sometimes people have more than one love, and maybe it's the different kinds of love. So as a psychic and a medium, do you think that it's possible to have more than one soulmate?
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, actually. Spiritual journey or not, we all have soulmates, and they all come into our life at certain points. And I absolutely agree when there's times in our life where a soulmate will come in, and we think it may be our lifetime soulmate. And I believe we all do have one lifetime soulmate. Sometimes we don't always meet them in this lifetime, and that's okay. Sometimes we're meant to meet those ones that will really help us evolve and get past those certain issues, certain internal issues to get to the next level. And it's really interesting when you look back and you evaluate those people that had a major impact on your life. And those are usually the people that are soulmates that really helped you get to where you are at this certain point.
And sometimes the soulmates are not always pretty, because I know there's been a couple of people that definitely at the times we were together, we felt like we were soulmates, and it might have, to use a analogy, it may have exploded or whatever happened, and you learned like some real rough lessons, as either about yourself or about them or about both. So I don't know all the time that soulmates. I know the concept is that soulmates are always going to be pretty and fine and the nice ribbon wrapped in a bow and everything, but it seems to me that sometimes the soulmates explode on you as well.
Yeah, it's so true. A lot of people, in my experience, because I am a life coach as well. A lot of soulmates have a hard time even staying together, because a lot of stuff does blow up on both ends, and I'm sure you've seen this too on your end. There's a lot of difficult circumstances around relationships that almost seems like it's preventing you guys from staying together, but in reality, it's just like a test from the universe to see, hey, can you get through these issues? Can they get through these issues? It's really a choice to get through that mess to see if you guys can stay together. In my experience, a lot of, some people can. I'm not saying it's impossible, but in my experience, I've seen there's been a lot of difficulties with both parties wanting to get through that to stay together.
And what other special ways do you think there are that people can communicate with their loved ones and things of that nature?
Ooh, well, I feel one of the best ways, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a medium, is to find a credible medium. I mean, I offer personal private sessions as well, and you can have a session that way and connect with them. Or if it's something that you really want to do yourself, you can really get the tools to really develop your awareness and tap into your senses and have that practice to do that. But I mean, it can be as simple as just asking a few questions, asking them, giving them a time frame. I always say 3 days. Give me a sign that I can really be aware of in the next 3 days. It could be tangible. It could be a dream. They want to do that for you. Okay, sometimes they're not always ready. Sometimes they're not always fully transitioned, but it's definitely worth a try, and it's really beautiful when you're able to start a connection and maintain your own relationship with your loved ones in spirit. So definitely asking is one of the best ways to start with that.
And once again, I might be getting myself in trouble with both your publicists as well as just the questions that I ask you, everything. But you are a celebrity medium and a psychic and everything. And I know that for a fact that a lot of celebrities, particularly African-American celebrities, are also very spiritual. So when people come to you as asking for your celebrity medium work, and they also have a spiritual tie. And sometimes there's that concept that the two don't necessarily blend, because some people think that mediums are kind of opposite of what religion should be. And I don't necessarily believe that, but I know that that's out there as a thought pattern. So how do you answer that when people give you that kind of concept of mediums and religion can't blend at all?
Well, what I like to say is that, for example, like say I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe that there's one source, and everyone likes to have, something tangible for that, which is different religions. But I just like to keep that separate when I do communicate with people, and really show them that it really has nothing to do with, connecting with your loved ones in spirit. Because, some people are kind of afraid, especially with certain religions, and I completely respect that, that it, can bring, the devil or just some evil things. But it's really all in the light. I see it in the light. I see it in, the work of God. That's how I really see it. So I always, people will see that for themselves. I try not to force that on people. I try to let them experience that for themselves, if they're really open to experiencing that.
Yeah, that seems like the best way to handle that and everything. If you can, and I mean, if you can't, that's cool too, but you do advertise yourself as a celebrity medium. Who are some of the celebrities that you've actually worked with?
So I haven't worked with any celebrities, but, what has given me that status per se is I have done quite a few medium interviews, and I do travel internationally, and that's something that I've become really renowned for. And it's something that I continue on with dedicating myself to. I really love giving exposure to this work and delivering a perspective-changing experience. So that's something that I look forward to continue on with doing.
It sounds like it's some great work. I'm going to bring Dean on, my co-host, as we get ready to wrap up the show and everything. But one thing that I think that we would both agree with is that if you can find any way possible to, at any point in your life, find some way to get in touch with the people over there on both sides of the White House so that they can connect with their ancestors and realize that what's going on is kind of crazy, we would greatly appreciate it, because this whole thing is becoming like a madhouse, as Caique alluded to earlier, around the world, because he was actually talking about the negative energy in both his country of Brazil, the negative energy in the U.S., and just the negative energy around the world, because he's very much into his Brazilian music, and that's kind of what he was talking about and before we brought you on and everything. So, like I said, if we can find some way that you can get to communicate with these people, so I'm sure they've got some ancestors that can tell them the truth, or will sit them down and tell them the honest answers.
Yes, I would absolutely love to help them with that. I think they're definitely in need of that right now. I absolutely agree with you.
Yes, they definitely need some help in that regard. It definitely seems like they need some communication from their ancestors. Dean, are you still with me?
I'm still here, brother.
I appreciate it, Dean. So, Dean, have you had any experiences? We've got Alex here. Have you had any experiences of your own with folks that have passed on, or gone into a building where you heard a bump in the night that you couldn't quite explain, or things of that nature? So tell us a little bit about your experiences with this whole realm of the spiritual life and everything. Have you ever had any experiences, or if your wife ever told you about one she's had?
I guess the spirits don't like me too much because I have not experienced something like that yet. I'll say that. Not to say that it can never happen, but I don't know, maybe I sleep too hard, or maybe they don't feel like dealing with me, you know what I mean? I've never been in that situation, so I can't really speak to it because I've never consciously, if I did, I don't remember it.
Well, actually, as like I said, we've only got about a minute to go, so I'm probably putting you on the spot asking you this question at this particular time. But Dean brings up a good question. What if somebody feels that they aren't having any spiritual connections at all? Does that ever happen? Are there people that don't have a spiritual connection, or don't ever have that spiritual tie, and they will never have it? Is it just that he's not reading what is happening in your mind, Alex?
Well, I feel like everyone is very much capable of, receiving those spiritual connections and being in tune with their senses. It's all just about making that choice. Making that choice, if you really want to prioritize that, that's something that can absolutely happen. There's some people, and I'm not saying this is in your sense because I don't feel that with you, Dean. I feel like some people are